Um, so last week we started on a flowers project which some of you are working on. This was, well actually the one I did last week I think was this one. So that was basically just sort of sketching out the flower shape. But I thought as I started this one this morning, I might as well just do a little bit more of this one, just to make a bit more sense. And I also thought I'd show you that one. That's what I did at the weekend. We had an outdoor session at Sutton Road Cemetery. So we did a bit of painting out there. And probably when it comes to painting flowers, this is more how I tend to paint flowers as part of the landscape really, rather than individual portraits. I quite like still lifes with a few flowers in them, but yeah, just a portrait of a flower isn't quite my thing. But I like these sort of things, blossoms, trees, you know, bluebells, things like that. So anyway, that's that one. And I thought, so next week I'm not here, so it's the week off, having a week off next week. And when I come back, I thought we may do one more week on the flowers project if you're interested in doing that. And I'll perhaps do a little bit on painting blossoms rather than individual studies. So I'll do that next session we're back. So yeah, we've got 1 week off next week. Then at the end of May, I've also got another week off. So it's like 2 weeks when I'm not around. Okay, so what I did last session was really just sketch out the flower shape, the form. And you know, I was using a poppy one for the demo I did here. But it's pretty much the same sort of thing. Basically, I looked for an overall shape that you could fit the flower in, like almost like a rectangle. And then I tend to start in the middle and work from petal to petal. It's also quite useful with something like this to look at maybe where the middle of the petals are. Sometimes sketching in a line in the middle of the petals helps to get the sort of direction they're going in. So that's the shape of it. And then from there, it's just working them up. Now this one I had to go in acrylics, so I thought I'll carry on with the acrylics. And this, it's obviously white flowers, but there's quite a bit of shadow. So I'll probably get the shadows in first and then go in for the lighter area. So I tend to work these. This petal I did in some ways it's quite nice to get a little bit of colour everywhere, but because I wanted these colours to blend into these, it seemed to work better just working one petal at a time. So that's what I did with that one. So again, perhaps I'll work over here or here, get some of the shadow colours in first. Starting with, just get a bit more white. Might be a bit more white. So I'll start with a kind of purpley grey. So some ultramarine blue, a tiny bit of, got a little bit of, it's actually magenta that is, but that'll get a nice strong purpley colour. That's going to be a bit too bright for what I need. So sometimes I find that just using a colour like green, something that's almost like opposite on the colour wheel, if I mix a little bit of that in, too much, but just a little bit, that has the effect of just greying it down a little bit. So I can get a colour that isn't quite so sort of intense. So some shadows in here. I'll work some of the other shadows and the other ones as well. Actually, there's a little bit of shadow in there. Quite a nice, strong shadow there. And a little bit of shadow here. And then I want to lighten that up a little bit. So just push some of that out and just make a lighter mix. So using the mix I've got, but just some white with it. And just in here, it's kind of an off-white rather than a bright white. And while that's wet, I should have a chance to just blend that in. So my approach to painting acrylics is a little bit like how I paint oils. I tend to like to blend colours where you know where the softer edges, and then where it's more of a sharp edge, I'll quite happy to leave them sharp. This side here, I feel like it's a kind of white, but to me it's got a little bit of warmth in it. So a little bit of yellow there. So I'm going to find brush for that. Maybe that one will do. No, that one might be better. No, I'll go with that one. So some white and just a tiny bit of yellow or orange, just to warm that up a tiny bit. So it's mostly white, but just make that a little bit creamier and warmer. Excuse me. And immediately you've got a little bit of a contrast between the warmer lights and the cooler lights, which I quite like. Quite enjoy that. Run some of that through there. The bit in the middle is quite dark. Sometimes I'll use my fingers to blend areas. And while I'm at it, I'll put some lighter colour down here. This isn't going to stand out very strongly against the background.
Does it matter with acrylic how many layers you put, or is it just the top? You wouldn't put too many layers over acrylic?
No, you could put more on, yeah. Yeah, it's quite in some ways quite a forgiving medium in that you can keep over painting. The difficulty I find is it drying quite quickly. This sketch I did on Sunday was acrylics. I don't hardly ever use acrylics outside, but I just thought to see if I could have a go. And the problem mostly is it's drying too quickly. Drying on the palette, there's a bit of shadow. I'm going to put these shadows back in here. And this might be where I need to go to a slightly smaller brush. Something like a rigger is quite nice, but these very thin lines. Yeah, that's better, something like that. The bit right in the middle is a green, so bring that up a bit and try and get some of this darkish green mixed in while it's still wet. To again be able to blend that in. So it's kind of getting used to mixing quite a few colours into each other. So just bring some of that back a little bit. With that bit. And then the background, I probably wouldn't paint all these flowers in the background there because they're a bit confusing. I think it sort of, yeah, it's difficult to work out what's going on there. So I prefer to just pick one or two flowers out. So what I'll do is I'll mix a dark colour, just using all the darks in my palette, so some blue and brown. These photographs, sometimes they go almost like the contrast is too strong. So I find that I like to just have and again, if I want to, I can refine the shapes then a little bit with the dark. Get a nice, quite a sharp edge there. And same here. So there's a chance, if you need to change the shape of the petals a little bit, to do so at this stage. The other petal is, I haven't actually painted it in yet, but that will go there. And then just get a brush to put that in with. There's actually quite a few textures in the background there that might be quite nice to work in as well. Just softening that out like that. But yeah, if you wanted to get some of these leaves and stems, it might be quite good to work in quite a subtle way, just to hint at that.
That dark really brings the petal out, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, someone needs something to make that pop out. Actually, what I did this morning was quite solid, but I quite like that, where it's, I've just popped the colour down and just softened it out a little bit. This is where the sort of importance of having a range of different size brushes. So I've gone from something about 1/2 inch wide, and you could probably go a little bit bigger with that. do a really small one for the little fluid details. And things like these little, is it stamens, these bits? They would, again, I need something like a small brush, perhaps a little bit of moisture with it, a bit of water to make that flow, and hopefully I could then just put some nice thin sort of lines for those. There's only actually one, but yeah, that'd be quite good for popping those sort of little details in.
Yeah.
Hey, anybody want to ask anything? All good? Right, okay, I'll come round and give you a hand. So yep.
You prefer not to use white paper?
Well, this is board, yeah, with acrylics. Probably, if it was watercolour, yeah, I would use white. Yeah. But because it's acrylics, I tend to use a bit of a coloured board, just an off-white. I think with acrylics, I find it's a bit too bright, just working on the white. Right. Sorry. That's all right. We can get.